So that was already pretty sick. And then after that, he gets to like I say, even the time window was genius, Monty. There was like a few hours when the initial statement dropped where it was like everyone was just, but it wasn't, not the statement, the Sheep Eat Spots report. Obviously, there was a leak. A report came out, right? And it basically said, go on.
Before we get to that, I think we have to mention what Wooloo said about even releasing this report first.
Oh,
do you
true.
remember?
Yes, because I've got my own bagger for that. Yes, true.
All right. So it's very important before the Sheep Esports leak came out, because it happened before BDS's response. Yes. And just to get all of our ducks in a row here for you guys. And what was so psycho about this was that basically I Will Dominate tweeted, like, how come this stuff never leaks when other stuff does, when everyone knows it? How come nobody ever reports on it? Basically, great point.
Because I've always made this point, dude, that would be equally valuable information to get views, but magically they only have the roster move. It's a bit suspicious, isn't it? It implies you don't have direct sources, guys. It's obvious, isn't it?
Wooloo tweets, I get his point, and it's a legit one, but I think most of my contacts respect my job if I do it well. I shared stuff like this at the start of my account, actually, and it saw a ton of backlash from the public. Stuff like this has to be done well, and in a general manner, I am open to it, but have to find the right stories. Like, what do you even say about this as a journalist? Like, if you are a journalist, your job is not to just report stories that make people happy and don't have backlash. If you report on real information, sometimes people are going to have a giant backlash to you. That's just what happens when the truth gets out into the public, and the public might not like hearing the truth, or at least not all of them. Right? Like, this is how journalism works. It's a duty to the presentation of the truth, not a duty to not seeing public backlash. And I think Mephisto, one of the coaches in the scene, had an excellent response to this, which was this. Are you telling us that public backlash percentage is the metric you use to decide to either publish true stories or not publish true stories? Where does the respectful or not respectful to the person being the subject of the story stand in that scale? Trying to understand. Like, exactly. Like, are you a journalist or are you not? How are you going to burn your sources with this unless your entire job is basically, as you said, Thorin, being the mouthpiece of Sauron, where you get to leak things because agents are telling you to leak them to affect negotiations? Yes. Like, are you just a puppet to create chaos within player contracts, within player moves? Or are you really somebody who is leaking information? Because the thing about it is, if you are spoiling people's player announcements, if you are a journalist, the institution should hate you. That's the whole thing, because you are undercutting them, or you are releasing information that they don't want to be made public. That is your job.
Yeah, I would just say, in short, to answer your rhetorical question, he is not a journalist. And for these very reasons, he doesn't follow either journalistic protocols and methods and safeguards. And he definitely does not have journalistic ethics. So one of the things, to answer your question, here's what's great, Monty. I did actually answer it using my video about Wooloo, but I'll explain it here shortly for people. The answer to Mephisto's question is yes, quite literally yes. He has admitted as much in his own words, of his own volition, with no one forcing him to send tweet. He has done it many times. If you don't know, the reason why those videos I made, shout out to Frankie Ward, she's the one that actually taught me this meta is incredible, is I learned, you know what, Monty, you can actually go behind the scenes, find out all the things these people did. But at the end of the day, people have to trust you, right? And sadly, even though I have incredible record of integrity, people will go, yeah, but you're stinky and right wing, so I don't trust you. So instead, the actual best way to destroy these fuckers is just use their own words. Literally show them, say, statement A, and then show that like a year later they say statement anti-A that can't be true, and they're a liar, they're a hypocrite, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're Machiavellian, they change their position depending on what suits them, politically expedient, like the aforementioned Frankie Ward. So what I'll tell you is this: over the years, Wooloo, especially as his fame started to go up and he got more and more followers and he became more established, like each off season that went on, every off season, in fact sometimes twice a year, he would do a twit longer where it was sort of like, State of the Union type of address, like, guys, I'm getting bigger as a leaker, so here's what I'm going to do differently and better, and I've heard all your concerns, and I'm going to do this. And what he would always say in these, right up until a couple of years ago, only a couple of years ago, is he would always put this weird section in Monty where you could tell he was insecure about the fact he clearly is a leaker and who didn't have legit sources. Because instead of just saying what any journalist would say, which is, look, my sources are all real, all my methods are correct, and even if it didn't happen, just understand it's a real story and I'd stand by it. Instead, you can tell he knew he was full of shit. So he would constantly, every year, make it sound like he was coming up with the same idea again, like going, guys, I've actually been wondering though, because a lot of people are taking my account too seriously. For real, this was an angle he would take. Like, I actually have been wondering, should I just sort of sprinkle in some crazy rumors that, might be true, might not be true, because that way then players won't take what I say for granted and get their careers messed up. Maddest context I've ever heard. It's the opposite, you dickhead. But okay, not only will players not do it, but then also, I'll sort of show fans not to like put too much stock in what I say. And then this is what's key. He didn't just say like, I might do that, Monty. He kept saying, like Mephisto alludes to, like, what do you guys think? Would you prefer that? And then he kept explaining how rumors actually like bring more to the scene because they bring discussion and speculation and they're exciting and make people. So essentially the whole time he's justifying the idea that they will trade essentially illicit information, like nonsense, like stuff they can't even verify, might even be real, but it's just salacious. It gets them hits whether it's real or not. And then I can go a little bit further. Not only did he keep doing that, but then he also, when he made a second Twitter account, because he had a second one that was mainly ERL rumors, if people don't know, like people thought initially, like I did, well, that's actually quite a smart divide, right? If someone only cares about tier 1 league, you have the LEC one, which is just Wooloo, and then you do the other one. If someone's like a super nerd only for Europe, they go for the LFL one or the ERL one and whatever, and they listen to just rumors about the ERLs, because to be fair, it's sort of like a tiered system of fans, right? That even sounded smart. No. He stupidly revealed that his second account, because people would be like, I don't get it though. Sometimes some of the rumors are from ERLs. Don't go on the second account though. They go on the main account. He just straight up admitted, yeah, I sort of cynically figure out which ones will get like a certain amount of engagement, and then they go on the main account. And then the ones that won't get that engagement just go onto the side account. So literally, Monty, everything this guy has done, and in his own words and his own behavior, suggests that yes, he is not a journalist getting real information and then presenting it because it's important, relevant, or like, in the public interest. He is someone cynically manipulating information that comes his way based on whether it has the main thing, if you notice, isn't like, will it hurt people's feelings? He didn't give a fuck, by the way, about leaking all that shit about CL, who begged him not to when he'd privately been told stuff and he knew that could fuck that guy's whole contract up and maybe get him sued by fucking Team Rex, by the way. He didn't give a shit about that. He didn't care about Vethio and XL and whether that was a good fit when he took information given only by Vethio's agent and tried to use it to publicly force XL to sign the player, as they then did. By the way, they tanked 2 fucking LEC splits. That could be like millions of dollars in the drain, by the way, guys, off a move like that. He didn't care when he did all that. So I have to say, to bring it all the way back, I do think he just does it when it is politically expedient to his fame and his engagement, which is why, even though the term's overused, if this was Tolkien, his class of fucking race would be clout goblin. That is what he is. He is a little goblin gathering clout in his little fucking sack. I got more clout. That's all he is. That's all he is. Because that's that guy pointed out. By the way, it's a great point by Mephisto. It's like, mate, essentially, if you had like really important information, but like the wrong person would say, I don't want to do it. Because you nailed it there, Monty. That's why you're not a journalist. Because why do you think Thorin gets blacklisted by evil geniuses in NIP? It's not because I put tweets that were rude. No. It's because I have repeatedly exposed and poked at these fuckers, and they know, deny him access. Don't let him get any fucking... In fact, they're even, by the way, if you don't get it, guys, in a case like NIP, that's a reprisal. I've never even actually exposed anything crazy about NIP, but that's a reprisal to show, like, hey, if you actually fuck with us and say what we're doing is wrong, like with Fifth Lara or whatever, then you just don't get to do your interviews with us. That's like, essentially what they're telling me there, guys, is stop talking and you can have the interviews back. Like, the Wooloo guy is doing all that behind the scenes, never even in public, supposedly. And the joke is he's not doing the thing wrong because he already does what the orgs and the agents want that you say. Because that's the thing that always gives away who your sources are, mate, is this. You can never publish a story that's bad about them. And it just gives the whole thing away. It gives the whole thing away. Because the thing about Richard Lewis, if you notice, is he can publish a story about literally anyone. Anyone in the whole industry. The joke is, Monty, he's literally done stories about me and you. And I was even his mate at the time. You know what I mean? Like, they done stories about us, for fuck's sake. Because I love that one, Monty. We sit there on the Four Horsemen. The fans go, yeah, Richard Lewis wouldn't call him out. It's like, he literally cost Monty like $10 million, me like $6 million, and himself. What are you talking about, you daft god? The joke is he's called himself out on that. It's a self-report. You know, you can't win. So, yeah, what do you think of that? Because, by the way, I do think that the Wooloo guy, here's my problem. If he just said he's a leaker, then just be TMZ. But they never can. Monty, they always want to believe they can backdoor into being fucking the Washington Post or something, or the Times of New York or something. They always think they can. They want the respectability, don't they?
It's also just weird that they have. I mean, you can tell when they like what side their bread is buttered on, also by the stories they don't report on. So, for example,
it's conspicuous. Yes.
How did nobody report on the Carmine Corp entering LEC? You fucking kidding me? Like, people knew that behind the scenes. Total silence. Weird.
You say it was obviously embargoed. It was obviously embargoed. Because you know this, Monty. This happened over 10 years ago. What happened was this. I'll give you an example of real journalism, and this is how legit I am, Monty. You remember when Slasher leaked the story that Evil Geniuses was going to, I think it was this, that Evil Genius was going to sign J-Dong, wasn't it? Wasn't that, or was it Hawk? No, I think it was the other way around. I think it was, I can't remember which one. Listen, it was one of them, right? And the idea was, because of what happened with one, he got the other interview, if you remember. And I think what happened was, he leaked one of these giant announcements, by the way. It's either J-Dong or Hawk, I'm pretty sure, right? So at the time, this was like a blockbuster move for Evil Geniuses as StarCraft. Sure, yeah. It was like, this is what one of the biggest stars is joining one of the biggest orgs. And what happened was, because for the first one, he leaked it before they could do their announcement with all the cool splash page and dope graphics. Alex Garfield, their CEO or whatever of IG at the time, went fucking mental. Like, he even publicly was sort of saying, like, this is unacceptable. Like, you can't do it. Even though, by the way, he was absolutely categorically wrong in every respect. He was just doing, like, essentially, like, hey, I'm an owner, do everything I want. And what Slasher correctly identified at the time was, like, it's none of your business, mate. This is in the public interest and all this information. So I went and I got it, and I got it before you could do your big splash page. So that sucks, right? Now, I will say, because actually Slasher was like a legit journalist, he did agree, though, in the future, like I say, I'm pretty sure for the next one, whether it was J-Dog or Hook, I forget which order, I think it was Hook first. I believe then he did like trade the story, so he didn't reveal it the second time. He got like an interview instead, that he had the first interview when it came out, right? Now, spoiler, what I've just explained to you with those two examples is what a real journalist on his own would do and what a real journalist working with an org would do. So you notice how, if he was on his own, he'd just leak it. He wouldn't ever have to wait, would he? If it was a big story, the bigger it is, the more likely he's going to get it out there. But if he was working with someone, it would be embargoed and he'd wait until they're ready to publish it. So as you say, Monty, spoiler, anytime they can't get the info out before it also publicly comes out, that just means they were told, save the info till this time. It was embargoed. And to have an embargo, you have to literally agree with the person. Yes, I won't do it until then. Like, that shows you literally colluded with the original people. So I agree with you, but it's just obvious at this point.
Yeah. And like, I think what's important to note too is that the Sheep Esports site did actually run a report on what happened with Adam, which is what spurred all of the responses from Adam himself and then also from Stryker, which I think were very good. So basically, the thrust of it is that Adam is...
One last detail, because I forgot. It's in the chronology, because you might not have seen this yourself. After that came out, the Mephisto question, by the way, a very good question. What a well-phrased question, actually. When he asked this question of Wooloo, and Dom posted it, another thing I like to do with the Wooloo guy is this, Monty. The worst thing about his fan base is, the reality is this, I've figured it out because I psychologically look at things as well as just look at what they literally say. It's obvious what the real thing is. The real problem is, the reason why even his fans have to believe he's legit, Monty, is because they don't want to admit they're just reading TMZ muckraking and some of it might not be legit or might be from compromised sources. So they don't feel guilty about their guilty pleasure of getting this goss that they shouldn't have. His fans do this thing that you'll have heard many times over, where they go, yeah, he was a leaker before, and he did do that, but now he's legit, starting now. And then you go, well, he isn't, though. And you go, well, okay, starting now, though. You go, no, fuck yeah. That was just last year that he's learned this last night. Starting now, essentially, it's like the same thing with every toxic player ever. You know how it goes. They go, I'm reformed, and then the org goes, he's much better now. And then he gets like, oh, problems again. Then he goes, no, but now I really have learned my lesson. And you go like, so essentially, right, here's the problem with that, Monty. As I always say, whenever you get gassed up, all it takes is one little prick to pop the balloon, and I'm that little prick, motherfucker, and I'll keep coming along. So what I've been able to show is that they claim there's like, what they do is they always put it 1 or 2 years in the past. They claim there's a set date at which he became serious and they stopped doing all the shady shit, right? Well, the problem with that obviously would be if I then show that you kept doing it. So spoiler, that Vethio story was the end of 2022. So he was fucking around end of 2022, still doing ridiculous shit with one source. And then now, because I just like this, Monty, I have certain, I don't fire every nuke from the silos. You save some. Yeah, I've got a few grenades in there, a few fucking Molotov cocktails and some short-range ICBMs. I fire the big ones when I do the video. So I had one saved locked in the fucking chamber as it goes, Monty. So what happened was I posted, are you ready, guys? A DM between Wooloo and Eros, who also works on his site. Now, wait a second, if you understand my gangster. I have DMs of them to each other. Am I just fucking omnipotent or something? Exactly. But here's the thing. You don't need to know how I got that DM. All you need to know, and you should all know this, you little scurrying rats, is I must have inside sources everywhere. Because that means one of you leaked it. All I'm going to say, boys. So anyway, because I had this, finger-licking good, delicious drama bomb, I dropped it because what it showed is hilarious, Monty. Remember, this website isn't called, like, new LEC journalism and Wooloo's just like the editor-in-chief. It's his site, mate. It's called Sheep Esports, after his brand of Wooloo. So by the way, if I made Thorin Esports, even if I had a different journalist who worked for it, if they posted nonsense, mate, the first thing I would tell them is, you represent my fucking brand and my name and my track record of integrity. What are you doing? So what this DM showed was that, like, not even that long ago, there was a story that was shown that the Eros guy got wrong. And in it, Wooloo's talking to him about the fact that obviously we can't have like things that aren't confirmed on our site. The sheer fucking self-awareness that even privately he would write that. But okay. Then the Eros guy basically makes a bunch of excuses as to why it was wrong. And the Wooloo guy says this line that should just be case closed for the idea he's a legit journalist, guys. He basically just says, like, look, I'm not mad. We just have to get it right. It's like, wait a minute, you aren't mad that he published potentially false information on your news website. Like, if you understand that he still thinks that way now, guys, coupled with he's just a mouthpiece of other forces and interest groups, and he will actually, are you ready? He will deny you the public information if he doesn't think that his other... The real joke is this, Monty. His customer isn't you, the viewer. It's whoever the fuck gives him the info. That's essentially what's going on there. It's a fair exchange, as we call it, right? So I think I've pretty much conclusively proven at this point in time, this guy doesn't have journalistic ethic. He just does whatever he wants. But it's the marketing to be like, but I'm now legit, because by the way, he does have a massive following. I think he has more Twitter followers than us, mate. So he has loads of fucking people follow his news, yeah. So I would just say this, just understand you're a leaker, mate. Just fucking lead into it. Like, this fake shit where you have to pretend you're more legit than me, Richard Lewis. Like, motherfucker, if Richard Lewis farts, you should capture it and breathe it as your oxygen source for the rest of your life, because there's probably more in there than you're getting from life itself. I went sort of a bit three-cut for it. That doesn't really make sense. Whatever. It's just something I was trying. It's all good.
So what it said, though, Thorin, was basically what this report made two claims in particular. One, that Adam was basically rage quitting scrims. Like, the two important claims was that he was angrily like refusing to scrim. And
guys, wait a second. Remember the champions Adam plays, guys. So you remember he plays Olaf, Darius, Garen. Imagine playing with someone on Olaf, Darius, and Garen, who, when this scrim gets fucked up, imagine what those champions could do to a scrim. He then goes, fuck this shit, and then leaves. He leaves the room, and you're all just sat there like, bruh, what are you talking? What are you? That in itself, if you're a fan of the game, is enraging. If you've ever played with those champions in top lane, the joke is he may as well be a fucking. The story could only be worse, Monty, if it was like, and then Adam, after a 52-minute side lane Nasus game, left when the team wouldn't allow him to keep power farming. Like, that's the only way it could be more of an insane like solo queue bait. I mean,
story. Honestly, that a Darius player. A Darius main would rage quit scrims. It's literally the least surprising thing ever.
I know.
Ever.
It's too good. That would be like saying a Lee Sin main had questionable decision making in real life as well. Like, oh my God, no, did he go on queue in real life as well? Never could imagine that, mate. Never imagined a toxic Lee Sin main. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Give me a break. Give me a break, bro.
So the other key aspect of this was that apparently he got into a pretty heated argument with Stryker. And so would you say those are the two main factors? Would you add any color to this?
Yeah, no, I'd just say that. That sounds like it makes enough sense.
Right.
By the way, just argue. This is actually a detail I think people missed in the discussion, Monty. They only discussed the idea he was rude to teammates or whatever. The significant part to me, the whole crux of this, is the second part, isn't it? You know this. It's the idea you actually were insubordinate to your coach. By the way, let me just put some framing down for you guys. This team went from using Adam as like sort of an actual fucking distraction so they could carry the game through a crown shot hyper carry ADC to we don't even need crown shot. In fact, get in someone whose job is to not be crown shot and play entirely for fucking Adam. I've put the whole game around you and now you're going to be a prick to me. That is absolutely grounds for benching me, because here's what's mad about this. This is where people won't realize I am actually so legit. Mate, I think about a week before he got benched, I actually said it on Twitter, he's the best top player in the fucking LEC. Like, he actually looked like he was, this system made him look like the best player at top lane. Because at the time, Broken Blade hadn't had the finals, guys. So, like, I actually thought he was fucking killing it. So, like, the joke is, your coach couldn't have done more to make your career fucking dope and awesome. He's even removed, if you don't get it, guys. I suppose the Adam was one of the people who had issues with crowd. He says he removed the people you don't like. If after all that, you're still being a twat to that guy, like, I see why he benched you, mate. It's like, at that point, what else does he have? Like, you don't fucking learn. I thought this was crazy, the idea you'd be shitty to you. It's one thing to be shitty to your team, to your fucking coach. He fucking made you. And also, people don't know. I already knew that Stryker was legit, because a lot of people actually don't know that. Sadly, we never discussed it on this show because it was years ago now. When Stryker was in Carmine Corp, the year Reckless was there, when he left, a lot of people don't know this. He just did like a stream where he just actually like flamed Reckless and talked about what a twat he was, basically. Like, this guy is, and by the way, no one in esports will do that because they're all scared about the future. Like, well, then Fnatic won't hire me, or, you know, that sort of shit. Like, this guy doesn't care. He's actually a super legit guy. He has like an old school sports coach mentality of what he understands, Monty, is, first of all, there's a separation between coach and player. We're not friends. And then after that, the hierarchy remains. Like, look, you can disagree, or you can have input, but you can't like supersede me and tell me I'm the coach. And the reason why I love that, Monty, is, you know, one of my most famous refrains on this show goes like this: I hate when a coach gets fired and then they complain afterwards, but I couldn't do anything, I couldn't pick the players, and I was gate kept, and I don't go. Then why did you put your name on it, bro? Because the one thing you want to say as a coach is, hey, it's like Bill Belichick. You know what? You might not like the seasons, but at least he was in charge. You know that he got to make the choices. He gets to know, win or lose, I did what I wanted. I won all off on my terms. The worst is if you don't do it. So I would say the Stryker guy, to me, the joke is, I actually think this is just another fucking, like, this is another fucking notch on his belt. Like, he just looks even more legit. This guy's just a very good coach, mate.
To your point about the seriousness from a gameplay perspective about benching Adam, let me read you guys some statistics about Adam that are very crucial to what Thorin's saying about the way that they play around him. So, in the best of one stage, Adam had the highest counter pick percentage of any top laner in LEC, with 78% of the time he receives a counter pick in the draft. Like, he picks second after he sees the top laner, okay? In the winter playoffs that he played, he had a 75% counter pick percentage within the draft. So 78% in best of ones, 75% in the games that he played in the best of 3/best of 5 stage. This team was built around giving Adam advantages because, again, what we saw with Nook was the one who was taking control mages blind a lot of the time, a la Faker in T1. We saw them prioritize basically 3 champs in the bot side: Varus, Ashe, and Jhin for Ice. These we talked about in the show before. Long range, engage AD carries for the most part because they were running pick compositions. And a lot of the way this team played was around the counter picks in the top side and the pressure that can generate from Adam. So when you switch players, even if I think Genax is a very good substitute, like they had a very good fallback player, it changes the dynamic of the way you play the game enormously because Adam is not a plug-and-play player. He is not. He is not a, you can't just be like, well, we're going to insert a weak side top laner into this team because that isn't how everyone else's jobs on the team work, particularly their bot lane. like particularly their bot lane. So it is a like pretty monumental decision. But to your point that you made a while ago, Thorin, about when is a better time to do this, the answer is there is no better time. This is the perfect time to do it because you're not affecting your chances for MSI. And let me explain the brilliance, what I think is the brilliance of the timing and of the messaging, because we're going to go on to Adam's statement and Striker's statement. And what this really like knits together is you got a bunch of points, right? You got a bunch of points. As you said, like points on the circuit, right? So that you're getting, you know, closer to potentially going to Worlds.
Got third at least. You've already got some. It's like you give it
you got third. You got third. So,
and you probably still think it's possible to maybe win and get second. That was also plausible too. Yeah.
So here's the other thing, Thorin. If you're confident in your abilities and you're confident in Adam's ability to reform, or you're confident that GenX can permanently take this position if necessary, well, first off, we're going to have several weeks off. Like basically the next season of LEC, now that it's over, doesn't start till like what, second week of March?
You know,
right?
See, I hadn't even thought of that. Actually, there's another angle people haven't thought of. If they actually had have won Game 5 and won, maybe they just reinsert Adam for the final and they get to win the title or go for it and punish him.
Yes.
Like, there's also that world too, to be fair, yeah.
So here's the thing. I think you're right. They didn't believe that they were going to win this split. Okay,
No,
so G2 wins it. Now let's think about what changes if G2 wins it. Oh, right. Well, this year, the Winter Split champion gets an automatic seed to MSI. That didn't happen last year, guys. This is a new change in the format for MSI. And so what this means is that you don't really have to be super concerned because let's say even if G2 wins the next split as well, they can't get more than one spot for MSI, right? Like that's not a thing that can happen. So you're still going to be competitive for the potential MSI slot at the end of the day.
You could argue if you get him in line, maybe more competitive, maybe it helps you, right?
Yeah. So like there are real advantages to like there's not an insane disadvantage that you're having right now if you don't think you're going to win anyway.
Yes.
And so I think that when you look at it this way, first off, and then second off, Thorin, I think the other thing to consider is that what does this do to team morale? So if you think you're going to lose anyway, even if you beat Mad Lions Koi, in a way, this actually gives some spark of hope to your team because now if you lose, you could just be like, oh, well, we lost because Adam wasn't there. It also guilts Adam because I think he feels at some level that his behavior let his teammates down. And his teammates now are expecting more from his behavior as well. So you create an expectation both within Adam and within the team to reform, to have better behavior. And if you think you're going to lose anyway, well, maybe if you fix this problem, maybe if you can actually get Adam to fundamentally change his behavior and his team, you're not depressed as a team. Because if you just straight up lose with Adam right now, well, you know, you're just going to be heading into the spring split feeling shitty. But now there's like a seed of hope. Like in a weird way, it has planted this seed of hope within the BDS team as it exists right now that they can carry forward into the next split. And so now maybe if you think as a coach, if we just fix this thing, maybe we have a better shot of beating G2 in the long run. Maybe we do.
By the way, sorry, I thought you finished.
Yeah, no. And so I think like by doing this now, it shows that you're impactful. I think it's great that the BDS org and Striker made this bold move. Like we haven't seen a move this bold since Reaper like benched all those players on Cloud9. And that was actually very effective at getting Cloud9 into the World Championship, right? It did change player behavior. It does change player behavior, but teams and like coaches and org ownership are often afraid of doing this, even though I think it often yields better results. The stakes were low. They weren't going to win anyway. Now they have hope. Now they might have actually reformed his behavior. And because he is a crucial part of how this team functions, maybe he will be able to mature and carry that burden. And if they don't, if it doesn't work, Thorin, they'll just put in GenX. Like, fuck it, man. Like, just send it with GenX at that point in time. You've shown you're willing to make the swap. Most players behave this way because there isn't somebody breathing down their neck for their role. That is one of the biggest problems in the West is that players act like shitters and don't listen to coaches because there's nobody to replace them. In China, you just get, boop, there's the next rookie. You know what I mean? In Korea, well, there's another one. So like there's always this pressure in these regions, which I think helps keep the player in check. But in the West, that pressure frequently does not exist.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.